Good morning. It is Friday, October 9th. I'm Marci.
And I'm Beverly Thomson. It has been a long campaign, and it is nearing the end. Real change has been the motto of the Liberal campaign, and if the polls prove true, change in one form or another could be in the offing in Ottawa.
The eldest son of Canada's 15th Prime Minister, some suggest Justin Trudeau was born to be in politics. His opponents have criticized him as not being ready, but pundits say he's risen to the challenges on the campaign trail. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau joins us in studio this morning, and it's great to have you with us today, along with the studio audience who's primed and ready to ask you some questions. But I'll throw out the first one. We had polling done by Nanos as of 5:30 a.m. Eastern this morning, and in it suggests that 7 out of 10 Canadians want change. And then as we move down into those numbers, it also shows that Canadians believe that your party can most effectively bring about that change. I mean, apart from replacing or being the next prime minister of this country, what does effective change mean? It's a word we hear all the time. What does it mean?
Well, one of the things that we've seen, and I've heard it from Canadians across the country, is we can't afford another 10 years like the last 10 years. The fact is Mr. Harper has the worst record on growth of any prime minister since the 30s and the Great Depression, worst record on job creation since World War II. But what that means in the lives of people who are trying to get their kids to school on time, trying to get through traffic, trying to be optimistic about their future, about their own retirement, about their kids' future, as people are worried. And what we need is a government that's focused on putting more money in their pockets, in the pockets of people who need it. We've got a more generous child benefit. We've got a tax break for the middle class that we pay for by giving a higher level of taxes to the wealthiest 1%. And we've got a massive infrastructure investment program to get our public transit moving again, to build roads, to build social housing, to build the kinds of infrastructure that our country needs. And that is what we're putting forward, saying, you know what, it's time we invested in our future once again.
You mentioned middle class, and that's been a cornerstone of your campaign for families, the middle class families. So who really are they? Because, you know, we can delineate between, let's say, 44,000 to 89,000, I think has been in your campaign, and then those making over 200,000 get charged or taxed higher. Who's the middle class? Who are these people? Well,
there's always different ways of looking at it, and you highlight two of the things. Incomes between $44,000 and $89,000 will be taxed less, and we're going to be giving more taxes to anyone making over 200. But on the flip side of things, look at an average family of four. The median family of four makes about $90,000 a year. Under our plan, they'll get a check for $490 every single month, tax-free, which is $2,500 more than with Stephen Harper's current approach. And that's real money in the pockets of people who are going to spend it, who are going to invest it, who are going to grow the economy. So it's not just about redistribution of income inequality, which is a real challenge. It's also about saying, when you put more money in the pockets of people who need it, instead of giving tax breaks to millionaires, child benefits to millionaires, which Mr. Harper is currently doing, you're actually making a tangible difference in people's lives and in how they're able to raise their kids and build a future.
We had a young person on the show, well, we called her a youth stakeholder, a student who is excited about this election. But the fact of the matter is that youth unemployment in this country is just staggering. 12.9%, I think the latest numbers in June. And her idea was there needs to be a national strategy with regards to youth unemployment, that whoever is leading this country has to look at that seriously and understand that young people want to work, they're ready to work, and want to know that when they graduate school, there's something for them. Yeah,
we're investing hundreds of millions of dollars more in youth employment strategies to create 40,000 opportunities every year for young people, 40,000 more every year for young people. We're looking at how we're going to make it easier for them to repay their student debts. We're giving more student grants to lower income and middle income families so that kids can get that education they need. But the one thing that's been inspiring me is exactly as you're saying. We have a generation of young people who are engaged and interested in the world, not entirely convinced yet that voting and political parties are actually a way of making a difference, but they're starting to see that, yes, this is going to be an important election, and they want their voice to be counted. And a number of young people have said to me, we understand that not voting is actually impossible, because when you stay home and you don't vote, you're giving a double vote to someone you disagree with. So whether you're voting or not, you're actually voting, and you might as well vote for a vision that lines up with your values.
We've talked a lot, certainly a lot on this show, but Canadians across the country have talked a lot about the abysmal situation for Aboriginals in this country, and not the least of which was recently we were talking about, 20 years or almost 20 years of a boil water advisory at Shoal Lake. Everybody keeps saying in every election they're going to fix it, and it never gets fixed.
Yeah, well, listen, one of the problems that I've had in this election is we haven't been talking nearly enough about Indigenous issues. In the debates, I kept trying to bring it up. Sophie did an extraordinary announcement with Sisters in Spirit. We've put hundreds of millions of dollars every year for a 2.6, actually over $3 billion commitment to First Nations education. We've committed to moving immediately with an inquiry into the missing and murdered Indigenous women. It's about time, but I mean, all those elements are important, but it's about time we built a real relationship based on respect and partnership in a nation-to-nation basis. And that's the message that I've been talking with chiefs and activists and people across the country, and even non-Indigenous people are saying, you know what, it's time we got this right.
Can you do this? I mean, when we talk about, and even in the Liberal history, and Jean Chrétien was minister and then became Prime Minister, made it a cornerstone of his policy platform, and so did Paul Martin. Nothing really changed in terms of living conditions.
Well, the Kelowna Accord, which was signed in 2005, was a historic landmark agreement that was going to make a huge difference in concrete ways in living conditions, in education, across the board. It was cancelled when the Conservatives took office, and we're going to have to pick up where that left off, make up for 10 lost years, and move forward. And I know that we can, because it's not just me. We have an extraordinary team of over a dozen really strong Indigenous candidates, from former chiefs to national women's spokespeople in Michelle Odette and Jody Wilson-Raybould. We have amazing, strong candidates from Indigenous communities who are saying it's time we were part of a government that makes this a priority.
Is this a tipping point, though, as far as Aboriginal issues, when you look at truth and reconciliation and everything that's happened? And we just had a national chief on this morning who was talking about Métis and non-status Indians and getting to the Supreme Court after 16 years of trying to get this heard. Is this the tipping point, and is it just about politicians doing their thing, or is it about engaging the public as well?
Well, I think the public has been engaged. I think Idle No More was a wake-up call for a lot of people, and people sort of look at it, and a lot of politicians have looked at this as a challenge or something we have to address. I think it's an opportunity. I think there's an extraordinary number of extremely strong, young and less young Indigenous people across this country who are saying, you know what, let's be part of the solution, let's engage. And the challenge of leadership from Ottawa is how do we focus that and bring it all together with forward steps when, and I absolutely agree, we as a country have collectively failed First Peoples, not just for decades, but for centuries.
Well, I know there's a lot of people that are anxious to be part of the discussion that have come in here this morning. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with our questions from the audience.